All right, good morning. We're going to go ahead and call this committee meeting to order. It's now just a hair past 8:30. So privileged to be here on Easter Monday. It's a great time to be coming back and get some things moving forward. We're going to go ahead and open the meeting with a prayer, and then I will ask Commissioner Peach to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll move forward with the rest of the agenda. So if you will, just please rise with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to gather here today, God. We pray that you'll just bestow wisdom upon us, God, beyond our years, Lord. We pray that you'll place a hedge of protection around all the families represented here today, God, as well as all those who couldn't be here, Lord. God, I just thank you so much for not only the opportunity to serve, Lord, but the opportunity to work with such amazing people that we have at the county, God. And we're just reminded daily, Lord, how fortunate we are to live here in Santa Rosa County, God. And so we ask you to bless us today in this meeting, and we promise to give you the praise and the honor and the glory, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, the first item is approval of today's agenda. I do have one add-on before I start. We will add this at the end of the administrative committee. This will be set for 10 o'clock. I believe most of you have possibly been made aware of it from Mr. Shebler, but we have the fortunate opportunity to have an updated housing presentation or state of the housing address at 10 a.m. So we will set that as item number 7 to be at 10 a.m. So if we get done with other items a little before that, we'll have time for a break. With that, I will start with Commissioner Peach. Do you have anything to add or modify to today's agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cole?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Salter?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyncher?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Dan?
Sir, on Thursday, I'll have an information update on the courthouse project. The third workshop is scheduled this Wednesday and Thursday. So the executive committee will be getting a brief. The executive steering committee will be getting a brief Wednesday morning, and I'll bring a verbal update to you all Thursday at the regular meeting.
Thank you. Roy?
No changes.
All right. Mark, Jane, Stephen, Roy, Roger. All right. We will go ahead and approve today's agenda. And then got a few informational items here for those of you in the audience as well, of those tuning in. On Thursday of this week, the 25th, we're going to have 2 proclamations, National Day of Prayer as well as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. We're also going to have a public hearing scheduled for Thursday, the 25th. That'll be at 9:30 a.m. for a proposed vacation of a portion of Cedar Tree Drive. And we're also going to have a recognition on Thursday, the 25th, for the Blackwater Pirates and some of the amazing things that they've been doing, especially with their river cleanup event. And before we get to public forum, for lack of a better venue, I want to just personally say that I received a phone call. You don't get a lot of these last week. And lady and her family were just very adamantly impressed and impressed upon me how pleased they were with an issue that Mr. Furman and his department took care of. And we just really appreciate you, Stephen, for doing that. And it is always a good reminder when we get to hear from those instead of just the ones that we can't always make happy. So thank you for the job you and everyone in your department does. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and open it to public forum. This will be the portion of the meeting. If anyone would like an opportunity to address the board with an issue or a question that is not on today's agenda, now would be the appropriate time to do so. And do we have any speaker forms that have been turned in? Okay. Yes, if you would, just approach. You can just come up if you're ready to go. Good Good morning. We're so glad you could be here. If you will, just start off by giving her your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Charles Taylor, 5210 Chumuckla Highway, Pace. I've got some notes. I'll probably not look at them. I live just north of Adams Road on Chumuckla Highway, landmark 2 miles north of Highway 90, 2 miles south, 5 Points. I've owned this property, been a property owner, homeowner for 27 years. When I purchased the property, the only access to this property was at Adams Road and Chumuckla Highway. It was used prior to my purchase. It was a farm area, and people maybe before me, which I don't know, but people before me could remember how it evolved. It existed. It was there. It was my access whenever I went to look at the property and purchase the property. My home's not a part of a development. It's not part of a homeowners association. You people are my go-to. You're my government. I live by Chumuckla Highway. My issue is that my southern access has been eliminated. I maintained this area until last week. I maintained it. I mowed it. I kept a sight distance. It was flat, no ditch line, no pipe. It was excavated last week for a drainage area from Adams Road onto Chumuckla Highway in connection with Parkmore Commons and Adams Road, a right turn from Adams Road onto Chumuckla Highway. I don't have any problem with drainage. I understand drainage. That's not the issue. The issue was that my driveway was removed without any consideration, no contact from anybody. I used it the day before it was excavated. Eliminated, gone. For 27 years of ownership of that property, I never had any contact from anyone, adjacent property owners, and there've been several. It's hard to tell who owns it right now, but I got an idea. There was no problem. Nobody ever said, government, anybody ever said, hey, this is not really good. It existed, and I used it. I don't have any knowledge of any accident or near miss at that connection that I had there. It's residential, low traffic count, and I have a right to have it. I have a right. It was removed. I spent far much too time last week. It is my time, I'm retired, but it was too much of my time pursuing this issue. I talked with several staff, and there were acquaintances and friends. They carried me to this point of public forum. Come let somebody else hear it. They suggested that I apply for a permit for that driveway. What? Really? I used it the day before it was excavated. Do I need a permit? No. I don't need to restore my driveway nor ask for a driveway. I had one. It was taken. That violates my rights, my property rights. It's a violation. I can point fingers at why it happened. Maybe it was the engineer of record for the project. Maybe it was the review. Maybe it was the developer. I don't know. I'm not pointing a finger. Only thing I can point my finger at is The driveway's gone. Gone. Okay, I asked the board and directors and engineers to look at this situation. Compare other areas along Chumuckla Highway. You cannot hire a design engineer to come in and build a perfect road in an imperfect world. There's going to be other situations, just like I described here. If you go in and just remove something, you better not go and remove some of them. Better let a sleeping dog lie. I'm a little guy. I just lived there. But I had a driveway. I needed it, and I want it restored. I don't really care who restores it. Kind of hate to see tax dollars restore it, but I want it back. I want my connection back, whether it meets access management or not. I just don't have a feel for that, and my time may be gone. But I work for state government, and I was with state government when our access management tool came into place. And guess what? It wasn't but just a few days before we said, it don't meet every situation. This is not a perfect world. You got to adjust. And this was unjust. It was wrong for that to be removed. No courtesy to me. I didn't know it was going to be removed. I did not know. It's gone. There's a ditch there. There's a swale there. There was no pipe for my connection at that point. There was no pipe because it was flat. There is a 2 or 3 feet deep ditch where my driveway existed. And I'm not responsible for applying for a permit nor building the driveway back. You determined who was responsible. I don't know. I don't know. But I ask you not to gag at a gnat and swallow a camel. My driveway being a gnat, and you swallowed some camel by waiving other issues connected with this project. I understand development, I understand drainage, I understand traffic design, but there's no designer that's going to put you a perfect roadway on Chumuckla Highway because it's an imperfect world. I appreciate y'all looking at it, looking at the issue. I want my driveway back. I deserve the driveway back. It existed. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Taylor, for coming today. I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Taylor for nearly an hour on the phone on Thursday, I believe. I think I wish Michael would have been here. We weren't 100% sure if you were going to be here or not today from that conversation, but I don't know if maybe Roger or Stephen could comment on it a little bit more directly, but the short of it is part of the construction plan for that project called for the improvement there at Adams and Chumuckla, and so part of that is they dug out, and I know a lot of that conversation hinged around sort of legality issues, and I'll definitely defer that to Roy, but I had expressed with Mr. Taylor what I've seen the board do, and I think Stephen could probably be a lot more the resident expert on me than this, but in my district alone, I had shared this with Mr. Taylor. We've had several dozen residents in 2017 after the big flood where we went in and dug out along, I know, North Island and Sheridan and Barclay and all those areas. We dug out that right of way, and a lot of those folks have been using that as a second driveway, and I believe we covered that in that conversation. And Mr. Furman told those folks the same thing, is, hey, if you want that driveway, you'll have to apply for the permit. And I expressed that was probably going to be the biggest obstacle to overcome, is that there's no way in good conscience, I don't see how the board could pay for a culvert and restore a driveway due to drainage maintenance if we haven't done it for all these other folks. And the one other issue, and this is why I wish that Mr. Smith was here, but I'll just relay, he had told me, and I shared with you, that he said he thought it created a safety issue. Now, would it be the only safety issue in the county? Absolutely not. I think that was your point of imperfection, but those are the reasons why staff basically said, hey, this is why it was done and not restored. But I will defer. I don't know if Roy could, and again, he may not even had time to look at this. It may have even been Friday that we talked, and I sent the email instead of Thursday. But his big question, Roy, was he's had this access. They're off Shemukla. It's basically, it wasn't a designated driveway as far as when you drive by it, but it's clearly an access spot he's been using, and he thought that gave him vested rights because he's been using that these years across the county right away, as you've heard. So maybe you could speak to that.
Well, I haven't had a chance to review it, but I can tell you that if he has other access along Shemukla Highway, he's not entitled to the most convenient access, nor is he entitled to access just because he's had it in place for a number of years. It needs to meet our requirements as far as access management, and it is a life safety issue that would be it'd be inappropriate for the board not to enforce our life safety requirements.
Okay.
Clean up all of Shemukla Highway. Across the street from me, all of the frontage of the property, which is 200-300 feet, is driveway. And in instances, it's a commercial use. I don't have any problem with it. There's been no accidents there. You can't clean up the whole world. You got to let some sleeping dogs lie. You got to waive some things, like a left turn that's warranted. Waive it, okay? If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. If my driveway was there, okay, somebody removed it. Somebody removed it without any courtesy to me. Look, it's wrong. It's wrong. If you do it, it's wrong. You're not going to design Shemukla Highway and meet access management. There's going to be issues that cannot be met. There's going to be design standards that cannot be met.
Right. Let me ask if anybody else has a comment. If not, it's like I told you on the phone last week, unfortunately, and I truly think this is the reason why I'm seeing gray hairs pop up at my age. This is the unfortunate part where I'd share with you on the phone. We very well could get to a resolution that would not be satisfactory to what you want. And but again, I named some of those other roads. This is a conversation. Even in Forest Hills, I think we had this thing happen where we went in, cleaned out right away, and folks said, hey, that's my driveway. And so I think the appropriate thing from what we have established in just the 2.5 years that I've been here would be to say that you would have to apply for a driveway permit. Of course, staff would review that. And again, the big concern is when I have my county engineer saying, Sam, that's a safety hazard.
That's an opinion, but that's garbage.
Right. Okay. Well,
There was a driveway there. I built another driveway.
Right.
There's people with more than 2 driveways on Shemukla Highway. And I built a driveway whenever I built my home, and I got a permit, and I complied with county requirements.
Right.
And I used that driveway. This one existed, and I used it. This was existing for more than 27 years. I don't know how long.
Right.
Now,
Mr. Taylor, and that's why I had expressed with you that, and again, I wish we'd have had more time. I could have maybe had the chance to vet it, or the attorney could, but that's why we had the attorney speak on it. He represents the county. He is by no means perfect, as none of us are, and so, but I am definitely not an attorney, so I'm not going to say that he's wrong, but that's why he shared with you. You have a permitted driveway.
well, I'm not saying anybody's wrong, and I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I do have prescriptive rights, and it existed, and others removed it.
Okay.
Without any courtesy to me, without any contact, and that puts the county and everybody else with some liability there. Why? Why couldn't someone come by and say, look, it's gonna be gone. I used it the day before.
Well,
Okay.
again, I'm sorry for
Yeah,
the
well-
inconvenience, but I know we're trying to improve that intersection there for some safety things. And as I shared with you on the phone, and I don't mean it any less lightheartedly, the sad part is we have many folks come in front of us and we're
Well-
just not able to get there to the resolution that's going to make everybody happy.
Am I in a circle of another group of strong men that I can't get through, that I can't break? Nobody can get out of this?
If anybody has a comment on it, I mean, they're
Mr.
free.
Chairman.
Commissioner Cole.
Could somebody fill me in? I don't know where the parcel is or what exactly happened.
Stephen or Roger may be able to give a better answer. This is as Parkwood Commons is being built over off of Adams Road on Chumuckla Highway. It's a subdivision. One of the things he talked about when he referenced Swallow and a Camel was this board. It came to us last year. We had about a dozen property owners, give or take, maybe 8 or 10, that had built houses up near the right-of-way. They were only 25 foot off the right-of-way. Because of the recession, that project was not built out, and one of the requirements was a left turn lane. These houses were built in the interim. The project is now back up and moving. You can see there on the map, the intersection. And so as part of that, this board approved that we would do away with the left turn lane into the subdivision from Adams Road to save those people's yards. But the alternate resolution that came up is there as you see Adams Road coming to Chumuckla Highway. Now we're requiring an additional expansion of Adams Road, and that'll be a right-hand turn lane, and we're also doing some improvements to that intersection. And that property directly in front of where that pointer just was is actually a separate piece of property that's owned by the developer. And according to the survey,
Where's this gentleman's property?
if you could, it's a triangle piece where the house there and then that shop, that piece there, and his driveway is right there where that pointer is where his driveway is with the mailbox and the culvert and all. Had the opportunity to ride out there this weekend. And the driveway they're talking about is back down here, and actually according to the survey of record that was submitted to us on the construction plans,
Further to the north there.
it shows that at least a portion, I know as Mr. Taylor said, maybe a tire track was what we talked about on the phone, actually goes across the developer's property. And the developer, per his engineer, David Fitzpatrick, has said he doesn't want him crossing his property. You'll see it there. That is the piece he's talking about there. And so what engineering did is they came in and as part of that,
Further to the north there, Mr. Parker.
we can
Put your pointer
see it
further to
right
the
there.
north there. Beyond
Sam.
the first clump of trees
What-
there.
what- I'm not the one in charge
What
of
was
the computer.
closed, and where is his driveway now? That's all.
So you see the area right there that you're looking at in the photo is the one he's talking about now that he's having trouble getting to, because as part of those construction plans, they came in and dug that out to about a 2 or 3 foot deep swell.
Okay.
And so now his existing driveway looks like it's about 400 feet up the road. So he has a driveway right there, but his other driveway has been taken in as part of the drainage improvements to that intersection. And
Where's
that's
his
right.
house? This is his house down here?
There's the house right
That's his
there,
house?
up here,
All right, so this is his house, and he's got a driveway right here,
right,
and he'd like that one.
right.
Okay, well, okay,
The driveway that was existing and removed is not on property owned by Mr. Taylor, and it's not on the county right-of-way. It's owned by the developers, so he didn't have, it wasn't his property that the driveway was located on previously, so that
driveway goes out to Chumuckla Highway.
this was a secondary driveway, but it was on property he didn't own.
There was some issue that I'm aware of, not made aware of it ever until this issue, that I might have been infringing 4 feet with a clip corner if that was used, but my primary use was onto the north that don't involve anybody else's property.
Mr. Taylor, like I said, I'm sorry we're not going to get to a resolution that's going to satisfy you on it. God knows I wish that I could for every person that comes in front of the board, but I think what you've heard today is pretty clear with what we talked about on the phone. pretty clear with what Stephen and Michael Smith have conveyed, and that is, you do have a driveway. You're absolutely more than welcome to apply for a second driveway permit, but we can't expend, we've been on this issue now for almost 30 minutes today, but I did want to give you your absolute time to be heard on this, and I think these 5 men have heard the issue.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the time and the courtesy from friends that I've previously known with staff, and I appreciate the time. But I'm retired. I'm the only person that is not on the clock with a salary, whether your salary is per term, per hour, per day, whatever, you're getting paid for time that I take.
All right, thank you.
I thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service to the state. Do we have anybody else here today to speak in the public forum portion? Kyle, were you here for public forum? No? Okay. All right. Well, hearing none, and that brings us to right at 9 o'clock, we will go ahead and close public forum. We do not have any items under the Economic Development Committee. Takes us to the committee. Item number 1 is a discussion of a proposed grant application to remove a derelict vessel through the 2019 FWC derelict vessel grant opportunity. You have some information there in your backup. Do we have any questions or comments from any members of the public or staff? Hearing none, we will move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Item number 2 is the Navarre Parkway landscape renovations change order. This is a discussion of proposal from Piney Grove in the amount of $28,010.53 to implement the landscape renovations to Navarre Parkway from West Andorra Street to Intelligent Way. You got information there in your backup. Are there any questions or comments from any members of the public or any staff? All right, hearing none, we will move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Item number 3 is discussion of declaration as surplus property, items from various departments within the county as recommended by the clerk of courts. Do you have any questions or comments from any members of the public, commissioners, or staff on this? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Item number 4 is a discussion of approval of request from Genesis for consent of assignment to Genesis Hoff. It's a part of a partnership move. I believe they had sold the company. The information is there in the backup. Do we have any questions or comments from any members of the public, commissioners, or staff? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Item number 5 is a discussion of a settlement offer from Blue Water Holdings, SRC, Inc., and separate offer to purchase soil or subsurface rights from Santa Rosa Soils, LLC. I believe we have a recommendation by the county administrator. I'll defer that to Dan if he wants to comment on that. As far as the recommendation that you...
Recommendation is up to the board. This is a final settlement offer, not negotiable. Mr. Kennedy, the principal from Blue Water Holdings, made that clear. They have a contract in place. He has made the execution of that contract contingent upon a decision by Santa Rosa County whether or not to purchase this parcel for $7.5 million. The second piece is a separate transaction with Santa Rosa Soils, and the offer to sell to the county is at $4.5 million. They could be considered separately, but that's the total package for that 160 acres. That would be about $75,000 an acre for the entire package.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have any questions or comments from any members of the public? Commissioner Cole?
Well, not from the public, but Dan, officially, this is the first time we've been able to discuss this as a board. And of course, we've had a lot of email traffic about it, leaning towards us trying to purchase this piece of property, but I don't think it's fair to give us a just do or die type situation, especially on this large purchase. Would there be consideration or interest from the board to put some money, earnest money down and allow us a 90-day due diligence time? I mean, it's, I think in any contract, that's only fair to ask for is time to do due diligence and see the public input, what we feel like we can do with the property if we did purchase it. There's too many options that we may have. I certainly don't want to see a land or a C&D pit sitting on top of our aquifer, but to just out and spend $7.5 million plus just to get the land tied up and then deal with the dirt part of it, I think it would only be fair for the seller to at least allow a due diligence period of time. So, thank you.
All right, do we have any other comments from any other commissioners on this item? Commissioner Salter?
Mr. Chairman, I remember exactly when all this took place. I think it's amazing to me that this group fought so hard to get a permit to put in a C&D pit. They sued us to get it. Now they got it, and now they want to sell it back to us? It doesn't make sense, and it has smell written all over it. And I am very disappointed in the way this whole thing has progressed, and I will not support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just voice and sort of fill in if anybody else had any comments. But I thought about it long and hard over the weekend. I expressed the same things Commissioner Salter has. Of course, I've had this opportunity to discuss it with staff, and kind of reminds me of, especially with the emails, sort of the proposition to take tax dollars and try to prevent at least what can be construed as a possible threat. It reminds me of, I guess you would call legal terrorism or a coercion, if I understand the definitions correctly, where we tell you we're going to do something bad for the environment unless you pay us money. And to me, it not only seems sort of immoral, but just improper as well, and that's why I share Commissioner Salter's feelings on the issue. Wallace, I saw you slip in. Do you have any comments on this item?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. I apologize. I didn't see a lot on, so I just want to make sure everybody got a chance. Commissioner Peach.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of background research on this, and I'm kind of shocked at this approach, as you and Commissioner Salter are. I'm also a little shocked that I don't see our water purveyors here voicing an opinion. I'm shocked I don't see the people making this offer here to discuss it with us. To me, it reads like a ransom letter, and it just makes me uncomfortable. Yes, I want to protect, I don't want to see anything happen to our water supply, but no opportunity to partner or work together or discuss or talk with our water purveyors who are actually supplying the water that could potentially be. It just makes me uncomfortable, and that's why I'm not ready to support this purchase just on a cold mailed letter like this.
Commissioner Cole.
Mr. Chairman, and hopefully the rest of this board didn't take it that I was ready to throw in the towel. Just what Dave just said and what Dawn just said, and the chairman, we can't make a decision like that on a moment's notice. And whether we can't get emotions involved in this. I mean, it is emotional. I feel just like you do. I just assumed the seller was sitting out there with a 45 at my head, because if I'm getting robbed, I just soon know that I'm getting robbed. But we need to look at this, because and to talk to the purveyors, to talk to the citizens. If we're allowed that time, fine. If we're not, then I won't support it either. So.
All right, Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And there is still litigation ongoing over this property, and it dates back years and years and years, and one of the issues was a state extension of development orders, statewide, that we didn't have any control over. So all this is in our lap now, but the state has a hand in it. Being asked to pay a total of $12 million because of the issuance of this permit. I agree with Commissioner Salter, everything he said. It's a C&D pit. People object to construction and demolition debris pits based on other pits in the area that have had problems in the past. Technology has changed, requirements have changed. C&D pits now have to be built and constructed to a very high standard with liners and clay and fill. For $12 million, we could hire an inspector, at $40,000 a year, that could check every load out there for 300 years to make sure that there were no materials being brought into that C&D facility that were not permissible. So I have no interest in pursuing the purchase.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public here to speak on the item? Yes, Kyle. Good to see you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you over the years taking the time to understand the geology of the area and the significance of the natural resource there. So I feel like each of you really do understand that. It's not a typical environmental type argument to land use, and so I think you all are just really functioning at a level where we love and respect you to be. We know that you understand it. So this morning I represent a company that owns a piece of property that upon which the project is dependent. And our legal team is communicating some with the Blue Water team to make sure that everything that's in place needs to be in place in order for the project to really be constructed. There are questions of intent associated with the easement that was granted. So we need some clarification there. We're not able to find a contract prior to the easement development that identifies intent. So I think all parties involved need not to be giving each other ultimatums, just as you've identified, right? I don't want to spend my time arguing or staying down in the weeds. I really want to think 50 years down the road or 100 years down the road and the significance of really that resource and how it relates specifically to the coastal areas and continued development in the coastal areas. We cannot survive as a county without the community of Navarre thriving. We cannot survive as a county without the communities of Gulf Breeze thriving and everything in between. Furthermore, in East Milton, the industrial parks that are there, right, that need development and need businesses to employ people, as well as those folks who are choosing at an increasing rate to reside in East Milton, we can't thrive without that community either. So some of our numbers are old, but at a minimum, 54% of the population are dependent upon that natural resource. So I realize that the other side has also listened and learned from us, and really now you have seen them take a position that is closer to ours to really try to push a price and push the issue. So I appreciate the self-control that we all have to have in situations like this to stay focused on really something that is a better outcome for all parties involved. It is clear to me that the highest and best use for the subsurface there is the storage of the groundwater. It's clear to me that the highest and best use for the surface rights there is some sort of industrial use that doesn't have any height restrictions because it is in and around airspace that is significant to the training at Whiting and also significant to the training that's at Eglin. So I do think there's some opportunities here that are, I think the public needs to become aware of all of the options. I think if what happens if acquisition of the subsurface rights happens and then partnerships develop between Blue Water and the county to have a better outcome at the surface level. Subsurface rights might be $4 million. I think for me personally, I'm most interested in retaining the soil in the ground because that's what holds the water, right? Now, there are limitations, right? Like it's 60-foot seasonal high water table, so, they can't dig down into all of that. I'm just talking about I don't think we should increase even with better technology, I don't think we should increase the risk to the groundwater by digging down too close to it. So I think I'm just going to stop right there for myself because I know others do want to speak. But I would just ask that we all think not so much about this particular transaction, but if we can all refocus. And when I say all, I mean Gulf Breeze, Midway, Navarre, all of East Milton, you guys, the county, the investors that are there. Speculation is an important part of an economy, right? We need those folks to come around and do things. We just need them to come around and help us implement what is the most compatible future land plan for key areas like that. So I'll just stop here, but I think I have felt no more strongly about any issue than this one. There is so much at stake for the future. And, you know, we're on the verge, really, of building a brand for Santa Rosa County that's built on clean air, clean water, you know, and solid planning. That's where we are. And so I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry for how you feel, held up, so to speak, but I respect and appreciate the tough choice that you have to have. And my only ask would be that we all still continue to really look to see how we can end up with a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Anybody else here to speak on the issue today? Morning, Wallace.
Morning. Wallace Mahout, 5500 Cox Road, Milton, Florida. This has been quite a long journey for, especially for the three of us that started out with this. We took Suncoast out in East Milton to an administrative hearing to try and stop that permit. That was around 2009, 2010. And of course, they were issued the permit. DEP was there with their attorneys and all their computers and, you know, everything that they can afford to win the case. And there were three of us there with our little, you know, paper notebooks and our facts and our feelings about how this could affect our community and our natural resources, our aquifers that provide excellent water to, you know, like Kyle said, 54% of these communities: Holly, Navarre, Midway, Gulf Breeze, and East Milton. And then in 2011, when we were kind of getting into, we were at the administrative hearing, and while we were spending so much time on that, blue water was permitted. And I remember distinctly asking you guys, you know, who were on the board at that time, please don't allow this to happen. But they did get their permit. So we fought that. The board had said at that time there was no money for research to extend what slight protection was afforded Fairpoint to East Milton wells, and that East Milton is the location of the blue water pit. So I found a grant for $25,000, partnered with the county, worked with Becky Cato, with stakeholders and the public. We got a lot of information. We were awarded that grant, so when that work group was finished, then we proceeded with the ordinance. And I think the time frame in there was something like 7 years, because it did involve so much information and so much time and so much thought. So finally, the Welfare Protection Ordinance was put in place March 8th, 2013. But 2 years before that, Mr. Salter said, well, why don't we develop the pit ordinance so that if somebody did apply for a landfill, it would have to be rezoned as a pit. And that was a great idea, because it has worked since that. So thank you for that. So that was our journey. And I know, Mr. Lyncher, that you just said there are better standards now. The county was the first one to require a liner because of all that information that had been provided and brought forward. And then after that, DEP required liners. So the county now requires liners and leachate collection systems, which is a better way to approach you know, this landfill issue. But we still have liner failures. It's not 100%. I'd like to ask each of you, have any of you driven past the old Coyote landfill site, like in the last year or two? Yeah. It's like you're on the moon. It's like you're in a whole different universe. I took my sister-in-law on a drive past that while it was still operating, and she said, please get me the heck out of here. What is this? So now we're looking at that situation on top of the aquifers, which provide so much public drinking water. So I'd like to ask you, and I know it is a lot of money, but when you look at that area, it's industrial. There's access to rail out there. I think in time, if you can work with economic development, water is a big part of bringing businesses into the area. If you don't have enough water to support what is happening as far as economic development, you're going to be at a loss. And if somewhere down the road an accident does happen, do you want people coming to your beautiful beaches and coming in, checking in, and being told, I'm sorry, you have to use bottled water. You can't drink this water. Just think of the effect that that's going to have on the economy. And any pit you look at, I've never found anything good about any of them with years and years of research. Even with the DEP rules, when we were so concerned, I wrote them a letter, and they said, well, we don't look at county ordinances. We build the pits to our qualifications, and that, back then was no liner, 500 feet from a public drinking water well. And I have to commend the county. You are now giving notice of 1,500 feet when something like this is going to be permitted. So there have been, wins and losses along the way, and I'd like it to be just a big win for you, because if you allow this to happen, it's on your shoulders. If you do everything possible to see if you can purchase, at least to begin with, the soil rights. And I know there have been threats, and I've gotten all those emails from a certain individual, but if you could work with that individual to come to a reasonable price on the soil, then the dirt stays in the ground, and then you move on to the big bump in the road, which is blue water. Jeff Klotch owned a C&D pit, took over a C&D pit in Pace, Diamond Refuge. Lots of mistakes made there also. When he applied for an extension to that pit, DEP went out and looked around, and he was already putting things that should not be close to well number 4 for Pace Water. They denied him his permit, and he fought it. I'm grandfathered. No, you're not for an extension. This happens time and time again, and that is what is so frustrating, because DEP has their rules. And they can sympathize with you. Sean Hamilton was an excellent listener, and he always understood where we were coming from. But to fix it, it will probably have to go to a state and federal level. But you can control it here without having to do that. And you can have it on your shoulders that you did everything you could do, even though it was expensive, to stop this from happening and not take that chance. So I would ask you to work out the deal on the dirt. And as Kyle said, there is a chance that nobody can build a road across that easement. So then you go to the big guy and say, look, we'll give you this amount, because without that right, you can't build it. So then you have the upper hand, hopefully, and maybe, things can work out and you can put businesses out there. It's the industrial area. You're revising the land development code. You'll have better focus on what you want for the whole area, and that's such an important area out there with all the water.
Thank you all.
So, and thank you very much. I ask you to try your hardest. By Thursday, maybe you can contact all the water companies that are involved, and see how they feel, maybe about helping out with the purchase. You have Restore, you have Triumph. I mean, just please give it all you can. Thank you.
Thank you all. Do we have any other members of the public here to speak today? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. If you would, just again, give her your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Okay. My name's Holly Kimbrell. 6830 Timbercrest Road is my home. The problem with dirt pits is they decrease property values and they have a tendency to run off the neighbors, not to mention the environmental impact and the water. Many industries don't want to be next to a dirt pit or a C&D pit. And once you dig a big hole in the ground, it can't be used for much else, probably forever. Even if you just fill it up with C&D stuff, you're probably not going to be able to put a good industry in there. I was hoping that our industrial park could attract good, clean industry so people could have jobs. Our county landfill does a good job with waste management. I don't think we really need to have a lot of extra private landfills around in the county. The track record for private landfills is not polluting is not good. A couple of examples are the Coyote landfill, the Joyner landfill, both in Santa Rosa County, and then the Rolling Hills landfill in Escambia County. Then we, the taxpayers, get to clean up the mess. I happen to notice that Coyote in the newspaper wasn't paying their taxes, so we'll probably get to repossess that land and have to clean up the mess. Please try to negotiate a fair settlement and buy the land back. And fair, I mean, tell them what your cards are on the table, that, hey, maybe they can't use that land at all because they don't have an easement or something. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, I know between at least myself and our county administrator, we have reached out to several of our utility providers that I'm aware of as of this morning. None of them have expressed a sentiment that they wanted to provide money to purchase this property at this time. And again, from Kyle and Wallace and everybody that spoke, I understand the emotional side, and that's why I didn't stutter when I say I really sort of relate this to like a term of legal terrorism. Hey, give us your money or we're going to mess up your environment. And you've seen the dozens and dozens of emails. I sent an email and I copied this whole board to it when I replied, and I asked those folks involved if they would be here today. And out of a project that is so monumental based on the emails, and I know they'll go back and watch this video, I'm well aware of, and an exorbitant amount of money and environmental impact, but yet none of them are here today. And so, again, it doesn't fall on deaf ears, but that's why I related to that. I'm not going to have the next person come along and say, well, hey, I'm going to, no offense to Commissioner Cole, it's just what popped in my mind. I'm going to open a car lot or a mechanic shop. And you know what? I could have an oil spill. My drum could drop 500 gallons, so you better use tax dollars to buy my business. And I just don't think that's a good policy to operate on. So with that, if there's no further comment from my fellow board members, I will ask that we move the denial of the purchase order that they sent to Thursday's consent agenda without objection. Commissioner Cole.
I'm going to object that my thoughts are we at least ought to try to get a due diligence period to discuss this further. I know it's a lot of money, but when I'm looking at 51% of our citizens get the water from this, and I know the new technology is going to make it harder. I hate to have my hand forced like this, but I just don't want to cut it off. And they very likely, from what I understand, won't accept the due diligence period from what I've been reading. But I think at least we can put the ball in their court. Do we want to adhere to what we've been told, that there's no negotiation, that this is a drop-dead deal, that we got a contract from the big guys in hand? So you guys either, do it or not. So if we'd at least offer or request a due diligence period, see where we get to with it. So I guess I would object. I'm not going to object to not buying the property, but I am going to object to not at least asking for a due diligence period.
I would
see if that's open to them.
Yeah, I would say I have absolutely 100% support if the board wants to direct Dan. I'm going to vote to deny this request to purchase at this amount, but I would 100% support if the board wants to request Dan. I know I've already had the conversation, I'm sure some of you have as well, is to reach out to the utility providers that were talked about affected. Those utility providers are charged with not only the responsibility but also the privilege to offer that water to these 54% of residents that you're talking about. We don't get any revenue from that. I kind of wish we did. It'd be nice to have some additional revenue streams. So since they're the ones with that not only responsibility but the privilege, they collect the money and they pay the payrolls, I'd be all for a discussion of if they wanted to look into partner this. But if they want to turn over the utilities and give us the proceeds, then maybe we'd have the money to buy it. But I'm okay with asking Dan to do that with a simple phone call. But I don't know, from what he expressed to us, it was buy or not buy. But we could leave it on Thursday's regular agenda.
And another thing, Mr. Chairman, I was thinking of, when we went to the conference last week, NextEra is looking for areas to put solar fields. If Santa Rosa County owned that, could we recuperate some of our cost in allowing NextEra to put a solar field out there? So there's some questions I have that, again, we haven't been able to discuss this as a board, that I felt like if we could at least buy some time, get into some of those discussions, maybe come to some sort of idea. Again, from what I've read, it's do or die, but we won't know that until we ask.
Commissioner Peach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Commissioner Cole. We need to try everything we can, to go back. I would like to see the water purveyors come, as a member of one of those water purveyors, come online with an official response going, nope, we're not interested, rather than a phone call. Because I think if their members found out what was going on, they might see things a little differently. And we can't make them go out to their members, but I think we can at least tell them, hey, we need something, we would like something official back from you on your position on this. Because this is a huge impact to everyone. And yeah, I'm not going to support this do or die offer, but like I said, you and Commissioner Cole mentioned, we need to do our due diligence to see what we can do. And if this guy comes back and says, no, I'm going forward, then, we've at least tried.
All right, we will. Commissioner Lynch.
I'm just trying to figure out exactly what we're asking for here. And if your staff is in the same position, let me make my point clear. I'm not interested in purchasing the rights to mine the dirt for $4.5 million from Jim Young's company. I don't think the $7.5 million offer makes any sense financially to the county. Again, the cost to develop a C&D pit of any size on this property is of such a magnitude that it's not going to be a fly-by-night operator that goes out there and opens up a C&D pit. It will be a substantial capital investment. The oversight and regulation is, in my mind, the way that we are protected going forward. Let's involve DEP, EPA, get them on with us as partners if this site is in fact developed in the future, to ensure that there is no possibility of leakage or damage to our groundwater. But just as you stated earlier, Mr. Chairman, this opens up the floodgates potentially for other property owners with a an unattractive usage permissible on a piece of property, to come to the board and say, hey, buy my property. My neighbors don't want what I'm going to put here. Why don't you buy me out? And we can't be put in that position. So I support a denial of the offer or rejection of the offer. If they want to make another offer, that's fine. I don't want to pursue it. I don't think we need to burden staff with pursuing an offer when that other party has already indicated that they are inflexible.
Yeah, I think, again, I echo that. My comment that I said I would support is if we wanted to have Dan shoot an email to I think we've got 19 utility providers in the county. I don't want to do the public monopoly of maybe 5 or so that we're talking about affected here, 5 or 6. If you wanted to shoot an email with, hey, here's a brief. If you're interested, here's Jim Young's contact information, here's Blue Water's, and again, they have the responsibility but also the privilege. They're the water providers, and that's all I was getting at. We can make sure, as Mr. Peach said, maybe a letter would be more appropriate, just so that they have the information. And if they want to purchase it, then that would be between their collective boards, but we don't even garner any revenue off of that. And but I can echo my point to the core is like Commissioner Lyncher said. I think I view this as, for lack of a better term, sort of an act of terrorism. I mean, we've got dozens and dozens of emails from Mr. Young on public record, and I know he's either watching or will go back and watch, and stating that if you don't buy it, we're going to destroy your environment. And Lord help him if he can live with that conscience of those sort of actions. Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I agree with everything Commissioner Lynch said. I don't see this getting any better based on the social media outcry that Mr. Young has put out there trying to make us look like the bad guys. I mean, they're the ones wanting to build a pit, not us. So if there's any fault, it should go toward them. I agree to turn it down. If the water providers want to do something different, that's fine with me, but I agree with Commissioner Litchard.
All right, we will, are y'all comfortable with moving that to the?
I would move the rejection of the offer to the consent agenda without objection.
Yes.
Period.
Hearing no objection, items moved to Thursday's consent agenda. Thank you. All right, item number 6 is a discussion of a request from Hampton Inn and Suites to utilize a portion of Navarre Park for a yard sale to benefit St. Jude's Children's Hospital, scheduled for May 18th of this year from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Any members of the public, staff, or commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? If not, we will move that to Thursday's consent agenda for approval. Next, we have that item number 7 that we're going to have at 10 o'clock. We'll take a break about 10 minutes till, but if we could go ahead and move on to Roger's engineer report, we'll try to dispose to that. So, Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Our first item is a discussion of task order number 36 and the not to exceed amount of $99,685 from Jacobs CH2M for engineering services, design, and prepare construction plans and specification, as well as CEI services to rehabilitate and reconstruct Navarre Beach Wellhouse Number 2. Wellhouse Number 2 was constructed in the 70s and obviously contains well number 2, which is a backup water source to the Fairpoint utilities. The south side has been exposed over the years to a number of hurricane events and shows severe structural deficiencies with the brick fascia falling away from the building and the chlorine room casing severely warped, which creates an entry issue as far as safety. And the well house is in need of significant repair and replacement. This project will design the rehabilitation and or reconstruction that will be determined by the engineers of record to reconstruct the existing well house, as well as provide preserving the existing mechanical and electrical equipment that operates the wells, including an enclosure for our chemical dosing equipment. Funds have been programmed in current budget year in the 0660 utility budget, and we recommend addition to the consent agenda.
All right, any questions or comments from the public or fellow commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda for approval. Thank you, Roger.
Item number 2 is a discussion of the preliminary plat for Magnolia Glen. This is a 100-lot public subdivision located in District 3. The sidewalks were not required nor proposed, and it's located on the west side of Pine Blossom Road, about 1.1 miles north of Willer Norse Road.
All right, any questions or comments from any members of the public or fellow commissioners? All right, hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda.
Item number 3, we recommend approval of the construction plans for the aforementioned Magnolia Glen.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda.
Item number 4 is a discussion of the preliminary plat for Waterleaf, a 16-lot public subdivision located in District 5. It's located on the east side of Overdown Drive, approximately 0.11 miles south of Highway 98.
All right, any questions or comments from any members of the public or fellow commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda.
Item number 5, we have a discussion of the construction plans for Bradley Estate. This is an 81-lot public subdivision located in District 3. It's located on the west side of Chumuckla Highway, about a quarter of a mile south of Education Drive.
All right, any questions or comments from any members of the public or fellow commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda.
Item number 6 is a discussion of the Volkert design proposal for 2 roundabouts on the Pea Ridge Connector Road in the amount of $72,600. Mark, if you could project that to the screen. The development potential along Pea Ridge Connector indicates a large number of single-family homes, the potential for a new school, along with commercial development on the south end of the Connector Road. In addition to the development potential, the roadway would widely be used for interconnection between the north and south communities. One option has been discussed is design of roundabouts in the northern segment of the roadway and a roundabout along the southern side at the school board property. They would help with the flow of traffic along with the connector road with providing speed control. Design team presented the options. The northern, and if north is here from right to left, the developer of the property is in favor of a roundabout in this location, and then this is the school property here. The school board supports the concept. Mr. Harrell could not be here today. Howsoever, there is a subdivision that has been approved here for the original property owner, GCOF, who donated the right-of-way to the school property, do not support a roundabout in that location. And so the direction we're asking for, number 1, is the board interested in pursuing roundabouts on the Pea Ridge Connector roadway, and then which ones, if you are interested.
Roger, a quick question so I can be clear. I know I've talked with the property owner that donated the right-of-way on this northern portion, the one on the left, if you're looking at the photo, and they have said that they see it as a benefit and would be willing to donate the right-of-way at no cost. But I just want to be clear, did you say the one on the right, even though the school board supports it, that the property owner there, if we're looking at the photo on the bottom of the roundabout portion, which would be on the west side, does not support it, therefore we would probably have to, did I understand that right? Or they do support it?
They do not.
They do not?
They do not, sir.
Okay, so that could potentially delay the project as well as add extra cost if we were to try to pursue that one.
Not necessarily delay the project, but it certainly would delay the construction and design of a roundabout at that location.
Right,
The
because we'd
project-
have to attain the right-of-way.
Correct.
It sounds like if they don't want it, that would be more of a, so I would open that for any suggestion or comments to the board. I guess, in my mind, if we've got the one on the north side that they were able to get with no cost, and well, I apologize, we got to do some design fee, but we're not going to have to pay for the right-of-way.
Correct.
But yet you've got one on the south end, and I sure don't want to have to go through an eminent domain process on a project that thus far we've had to pay no money for right-of-way. Then I guess my opinion based on those facts would be to possibly pursue the one on the north end there to help with speed mitigation. And clearly, I know we've had Genesis in here before telling us about the benefits of them, but the one on the south end, I can't see pursuing if it would add, we don't even know what the cost would be to that. But I would love to hear from any fellow commissioners. Commissioner Peach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the school would be right there. They're obviously going to be a school zone, the way we plunk school zones down, so it'll drop to 20 with flashing lights and everything in there as well at the school. So, there's a speed control issue, a support for speed control there with a school zone. So if there wasn't going to be a school zone, then, for speed control, I'd be a little more concerned, but I think the northern one makes sense. Based on your argument, the southern one, I'm not that fired up about, going through the process of buying more easement and things when there's going to be a school zone and buses there, and I'm sure there's going to be, I remember from the design, there'll be bigger turn lanes for the buses and things like that we've taken into consideration.
Commissioner Lynchard?
Roger, is there, if the property on the east side property owner is amenable to the roundabout, they think it's a good idea, is there a possibility of shifting the alignment there so that we don't have to acquire property to the west?
Well, there certainly may be that opportunity. We do not explore it with the shortness of the time effort that we had, but that would encroach more into additional school board property. Also, a roundabout works best when it's at a 90-degree square, and there may be opportunities to offset. I think we have some representatives here from GCOF that would like to speak, and I'd certainly like to give them that opportunity.
Great. No, thank you. You here? Absolutely. Yeah, if you would just give your name and address for the record, or business address, and we appreciate you coming. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Commissioners and staff, my name is David Tiller. I'm with Dewberry. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Just so we can get it on record. Thank you.
Sorry. My name is Dave Tiller. I'm with Dewberry Engineers out of Pensacola, and I represent the developer on the eastern part of that parcel with the first roundabout in question. And they don't support it in its current design. They do have a subdivision that has been designed. It's been in the can for quite a long time, and that entrance off of that road is important to them, and they really would like that entrance there. Just the roundabout in its current design eats into lots. It does not work with their approved plan, I guess. And so if there's a way to, work with the design engineer Volkert and the school property and come up with an intersection that works, I think the developer could support it. Or maybe there's another way to work out some sort of, agreement with the redesign of the subdivision to maybe 50-foot lots or something like that. They're willing to work with the board and staff on the property. They made the donation for the school property in the first place. I think it's just this particular design and the standard roundabout doesn't work with their current layout. And it is true, you could maybe offset. I know what Roger mentioned, it doesn't really work that well if you do an eccentric traffic circle, but there are some design options that possibly could fit. And so that's...
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I may have to lean on Roger some on this, because I know one of the hallmarks of this project is we got to stand on the gas pedal. We have signed right-of-way agreements. We are hard, fast at deadlines, and so that's one of my biggest concerns is, we start delaying that project, and now we're going back on the word that this board gave to those folks that donated the right-of-way. Roger, any comment on that? Otherwise, again, you're going to be the expert on this. That's my biggest concern would be delay.
Well, certainly if there's additional redesign associated with the subdivision and writing legal description, that will delay the project somewhat. But certainly we can proceed if it's the board's desire to do the northern roundabout, proceed with that design and go back and look at it as an add-on at a later date. Because certainly if they're not willing to give up the property today or something doesn't fall out very rapidly, and I'm not certain that you can when you're doing lot and block grid sections, which is, I believe there's a connection that we required to the vacant property through it, and that's only going to be a 60-foot maximum, probably a 50-foot right-of-way if I had to speculate, from his property onto the new roadway section. So that's not very much right-of-way to work with. So a long answer is we need to proceed with the project and with amenable partners, and then perhaps revisit at a later date.
Dave, I would just ask you if, I'm going to ask the board based on that we approve moving forward with that northern roundabout. And we'd ask staff they could have communication with your firm. If you could go back and maybe bring a proposal of working with that, I would just give you my heartfelt passion. You know, I worked on this nearly 2 years just to accumulate the right-of-way agreements, and I'm very proud that we haven't had to pay for any of those. And so if you can work with the property owner to say, hey, I mean, clearly that hasn't been developed before now, and they're going to be able to develop it, and so we understand sort of that game, but I'm appreciative of them. If they can bring back a proposal that would work, and you could run it by engineering, and it passed the initial litmus test, then we could probably come back and add it on. So I would just ask you to work with them on that, but I think for now, based on what I've heard, I'm going to ask the board if they would support moving forward with that northern roundabout design option, and then not the southern one at this time, but if you could go back and talk with your client.
I think that's
and they
very
can run
fair.
it by Roger, and he could always come back to us if we find something amenable.
That's very fair, and I think the three entities of the road design, the school property, and this developer kind of need to all come together and come up with the best intersection at that second place.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. All right,
Commissioners will attempt to have a revised scope and fee, or else we can just approve the concept of proceeding with the northern
okay.
roundabout. Either way, sir.
All right, I will, based on those comments, I'll make that in form of a motion if the board would support that we just move forward with that northern one at the time, and then if you can come up with something, you can always come back to us on that southern one there at the school board, and I know you'll get the fees adjusted accordingly. But we'll go ahead and, if everybody's okay with that, add that to the consent agenda for Thursday. All right. Thank you, Roger.
Sir, do you want to take a break before the presentation?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to quite make it through these. We'll go ahead, we're going to take a 10-minute break for those of you here that may have missed the announcement in the beginning. And then at 10 o'clock, we are going to have a state of housing update presentation for us. And so we will have that at 10 o'clock, and then we'll finish on with the rest of the agenda. So we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock. All right, it's just a hair after 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for those of you that stuck with us. And now we are going to turn it over for the presentation. I believe we have the opportunity to get, or Mr. Peden's going to come and give us an introduction there. And then I think we're going to have Mr. Charles up in here in a minute.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Peden on behalf of the Home Builders Association of West Florida. We're here today with, this is the third year we've done this with Santa Rosa County to give the State of Housing Report. As it is listed in your comprehensive plan, it's our obligation to come before you every year and give you a market snapshot of how we're doing in the county. The important thing about this is at no expense to the county. So today we are very pleased to have Mr. Edsel Charles with us. He's the founder and board chairman of Market Graphics Southeast, or Market Graphics Research Group. And Edsel is world-renowned in terms of economic data, and it speaks nationally across the country. They're in 21 different states. He is known by many in the Federal Reserve and others that go before them and give information. And the key thing about Mr. Charles and their data, they organically collect it. They don't rely on any other system out there. They're on the ground. He'll get more detail about that, but it's really special and unique how they do that. He is a little different from your regular economist, maybe, who gives a report. In my opinion, he makes it fun and makes it interesting. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Charles and let him address the board. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good morning, Mr. Charles. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. So how we do this is because we're not... How we do our research is we physically pull all the courthouse records and all the planning commission activity that you do in the county here, and then we go and drive and count every subdivision, new home subdivision, every 4 months. And we're doing that throughout the complete panhandle. But we do that, for instance, on the East Coast, we do that from St. Augustine all the way up to D.C., and 720 miles we count every subdivision every 4 months. We do Minneapolis, St. Paul to Mobile, Alabama, Nebraska, Kansas. So by doing that, what you do is you get a better feel for what's going on. My expertise is in Crayolas. I'm really good at scribbling. Wasn't very good in school. In fact, I had to quit college because I couldn't figure that out. But right now, my wife and I own the second largest research company in the United States. And so, again, our method of doing it is to physically pull all the courthouse plats, all of the permit, all the employment, all the planning commission activity in all the states we're in every 4 months. I get full-time people, that's all they do is track planning commissions. And then go drive. When I'm done, if you don't mind, I've got a copy for every one of you here of what I'm about to show you. I'm going to try to limit this to just a little bit. Tomorrow, there's another function, and I'm going to put on the latest economic forecast for the primarily Santa Rosa and Escambia, maybe just going a little bit east. I don't know if I'm going to do Walton County and Bay County. I would be surprised. So this is just a quick summary, okay? And I've got the PowerPoint thing here all printed for you, so it's handy. And but by driving everything every 4 months and tracking all the planning commissions, we go back here years in doing this. We've been doing it in Santa Rosa County for a long number of years. And so this is not just something we just do one time and it kind of, give you a bunch of crap. That ain't going on at all. When they called and asked if I would come, if I couldn't have come and just do exactly what I'm about to do because I was trying to be led a certain way, I don't do that. I don't, it's exactly the way I'm going to show it here. And very truthful, very honest, very straightforward. So let me just deal with this. Here's all the world that we are actually tracking. And you can see that obviously with Santa Rosa, we're back in here. See what I'm talking about, Crayolas? This is really slick. You can scribble all day long. You can make yourself look like you know what you're talking about, say. But we take Santa Rosa, for instance, and we break that down into pieces. What we'll do is we'll take this world back over here down to Navarre and back around here, and we call that what we call Area 27, and then we call this world back in here what we call Area 28, and then more of the northern, the county part of the county. And each one of those, we further break down into 8 price ranges. So we're breaking this market down to 24 submarkets, and we know the supply and demand of all the housing, of all the lots. And by going and count every 4 months, it's not quarterly, it's every 4 months. What you know is you know how many families moved in. You know how many homes were started, how many lots were developed. You see, and by doing it, you know the absorption rates, you know what's going on, and we do economic forecasts. I do an awful lot with the Federal Reserve. In fact, I've got 9 meetings out in front of me right now. The last one we just finished, we had 833 people show up, at least register. I don't know how many showed. In this world, the big dog in the hunt is Baldwin County, Walton County. Those are the big dogs in the hunt. But Santa Rosa, even more so in Escambia, by the way, is really a bedroom community. That's what we have here. And I think that there's some things that are going on with the retirement market here. I think it's a heck of a doggone potential retirement market. And I think that we have struggles as time goes on, if we're not careful, with price increases and land prices going up and a whole bunch of things. So let me just show you this. I want to show you how we do forecasting. Just one chart real quick. This chart was created May 14, 2000. This chart has never been changed. There's upwards of 9,000 or 10,000 companies have got this chart. It was done about 8:30 in the morning. It was done about 8:30 in the morning on a weekend day. Never been changed. I tell you that because you're not going to believe it when I'm done, I'm sure, but that's okay. It done May 14, 2000, right over here. And it said, remember, we didn't change it. It says that for the next 6 years, that the asset value of the average American remains stable. And starting in May of 6, we start to see an economic downturn that will last 3 years. In other words, 6 years after the forecast was made at 8:30 in the morning on a weekend day, we were projecting there was going to be an economic downturn starting in May of 6, and it would last 3 years, and we would lose 30 to 35% loss of asset value, and the recession would bottom in May of 9. We know for sure that May of 9 was the bottom of the recession to the month, for sure. And so this thing called the downturn exactly, and called the bottom of the recession exact to the month, 9 years in advance. And I tell you that to have a reasonable degree of credibility, and because our method of doing things is not normal, okay? Let me show you about when it fell 30, 35%. Wall Street Journal said it was 32%. Moody's Financial said 34%. And Bernanke, in a meeting I was in with him at the time, said 35%. So it called 6 years in advance the downturn, 9 years in advance the bottom, and the exact degree of downturn. This thing then says that by the time you rolled around to 12, which is 3 years into the whole 3 years out, that we were still going to be off about 10% loss of asset value, and that really happened. This thing right over here says that by May of 14, we would have gained our losses back, and that happened. That happened. Remember, we didn't change the chart now. You know, it's easy to say something and then change it every 90 days to try to get current what's really going on. Let me show you what would happen over here. We're seeing, and we've been following this, we think that by May of 2020, I think to the end of the year, I think that we're off 3.5%. Now remember, I'm talking about housing starts. I'm talking about that. In 21, I think we're going to be off 5%. And in 22, I think we're going to be off 4%. And in 23, just in the first 4 months of the year, we think that we're going to be off 1.5%. So we're projecting that we're going to be off 14%. I want you to know that because what I'm about to show you includes being off that 14%. One of the things that we find is that before you go into a recession, a little downturn, this in front of us is very modest. I think you wind up with something happening before you go into a downturn. We don't go from here to a recession overnight. There's a transition. And historically, if you go back, you go through a time of about 6 months, which started last October, by the way, November, about 6 months of noise. That's all kinds of noise. I call it fake noise. You know, I'm trying to play off the Trump deal, little fake news, you say. But so we have that make-believe crap that goes on, but wasn't true. And we were saying we were going to have a decent, really good spring market, and we're having that right now. But we're seeing that by May, June, July of this year, that we're seeing a little bit of the start of this caution, but it's going to be minuscule. It wouldn't be as minuscule if something hadn't happened. Do you know when Trump put in that doggone economic stimulus, you know, the tax cut? Do you know it's only the second time in the history that a president has done that, 8 years after a bottom of a recession? It's only the second time ever. And so you would think we'd have some change because of it, and we would firm up the market, and we think that is true. So we think the banks are going to overreact to a little rise in interest rates, and already we have a major banking group that has totally shut down all construction lending. I mean, they laid off all their through the Southeast. They laid off all the construction lenders. So we've got change coming. I just don't think it's major, and I think that we're over here, and this is going to be driven by interest rates, and we think it's going to happen in 2020 before we touch that interest rate level. Let me take you out of here. What we again do is we will come and we will drive and count all the subdivisions throughout all the panhandle. And we're doing, I mean, all the way through, you know, of course we're doing Santa Rosa County, but we're doing Mobile and Baldwin and Escambia, you know, all the way through. We're tracking the whole distance. And how we do that again is we pull all the planning commission activity, we pull all the plats, and we get in the car and we drive and count everything every 4 months. And we've been doing that for years and years and years. So if you took all of that and looked at all of it, here's the lot count. Back in 2009, remember May of 9 was the bottom of the recession. We had 41,889 lots that we were tracking throughout the panhandle. And we can tell you by subdivision where they're located. Well, it's dropped. Good night from now. This is 10 years later kind of thing. We're at 23,000. So we have dropped a ton of lots, like 18,000 are not there no more. And yet there's places that we still have excess amount of lots. Baldwin County is a fair amount of lots, by the way. And Mobile County today, for me to go build a spec home in Mobile County, you might as well kiss it off. There's just no chance come hell or high water I'm going to go over there and try to even build houses. You got to be really careful in Mobile. And they just can't get that sucker straightened out at all. It's just, they're strained. Not so with Baldwin. Baldwin is just one hot son of a gun. It's just really great market, as is Walton. This place is doing well. Santa Rosa went from, in 2014, at 2,941 developed lots, hand counted, and by 15 we went 2,638, 2,500, and by 17 we dropped to 2,100. And then actually went up a little bit, just here, 17, 18, and then we went back down to 15, 20. It's just like we had something in a pipeline, and then all of a sudden we didn't have enough stuff coming behind. Let me tell you about, how we do something. If a subdivision gets 4 lots or less, I take it out of my records. I do not track a subdivision down to 0 count. If 4 lots or less, we take it out, but we do pick those lots up by way of permitting and all of that. So we pick it up, but as far as an audit, actually going out and count a subdivision after it gets to 4 or less, we build it out. So, which is insignificant, but I just want to be sure I'm totally transparent with you. If you come back, we break all the county in these various parts, and then in various price points. And again, we physically locate even the stuff that's not started. We are current with all the planning commission activity till right now. Every agenda that's gone through, we're really careful with that. Let me give you an example. Here's how the overall market has gone In 2015, the total Panhandle did 6,809, but Santa Rosa did 1,249. In 16, we did 1,303 over here, and then we went to 1,604. Now I'm going to give you a copy of all of this stuff. Okay, there's nothing I have here that you're not going to get a copy. And we did 1,523 and 18. By 19, we did 1,538, we think. This is how we think we're going to end up this year. It's almost like we're trying to find a little bit of a top. I think next year, 2020, as you'll notice, see how we went to 1,484, and then we went to 1,410 and 1,354. Watch it going back up in 23, 1,387. See, because the first 4 months, we say we're going to be off, then we'll come back up a little bit. And by 2024, we see we're at 1,435. So what you have is really an insignificant little modest downturn. We're not seeing that, not with this next recession. The next recession is not an issue. It's the one after that we think we got a real problem coming. And we think by 2035 we have major problem with the government and finances. But that's not here. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. And let me give you an example. So when I did the analysis here, it said, where are we at? So so what we did is, if you have 1,520 lots, well, let me go back here, and so we're saying that of all the lot counts, here's all the absorption rate, but if I was to go over to here, we have 1,520 developed lots. That's the current developed lots in Santa Rosa County. In 19, I think, here's what we use for the rest of 19. Now, this is not the total year. So let me go back, because it gets a little bit heavy with data, and that's why I put it in writing for you, so you can have a chance to have the exact numbers. We have 1,520 developed lots. There's a few odd lots that are left over on sites that we had 4 less lots that we took out. There's some of that. Not major deal. If you factor in this modest recession, remember I said we'd be all 14%, which is insignificant. Last time we were 35%. And starting in May of 2020, I think we're going to build 8,609 houses in all the county to the end of 24. Let me show you something where I get that. If I take Santa Rosa and I do this right over here, is what we think honestly the demand is good. And our forecasting is enormously close, by the way. We think we're going to build 8,609 houses between now and the end of 24. So let me go back again. So we think we're going to do 8,609 houses between now and the end of 24. Well, at the end of 24, you need to have a minimum of 2.5 years supply of lots. Why would you have to have 2.5 years supply? Because by the time you look for land, put it under contract, renegotiate the deal, check out what the planning commissions, find out what the planners think they're going to let you get for zoning, run a pro forma, recheck out some other things, take to the city council, pay off the councilman under the table, take it to water and sewer and I'm having fun with you. Shouldn't do that, right? But I'm just certain, if you look at how long it takes to go through the process, it takes 2.5 years. By the time you're looking to the time you can pull a building permit, it just takes time. And some places are less, but not here. It's that 2.5 years thing. That doesn't mean that it's all the stuff that you're doing. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying to you is that some places you can get by with less, like Omaha, Nebraska, but not over here. It takes 2.5 years to go through the time to get through the stuff and put the thing underground. So it takes 2.5 years to go through all of that process right here. Well, if you take the current lot inventory in hand of 1,520, and you put that little 14% downturn, and you know you're going to use 8,609 lots between now and the end of 24, here's the deal. And by the end of 24, you need to have 3,587 lots on hand just to have an adequate supply. If you don't, let me tell you what happens if you don't have an adequate supply. It pushes up land prices. There's nobody in this room that if you have 100 lots and you're the only 100 lots, if you're the only, you own them all. If somebody comes want to buy those lots from you, you're going to let the price go up. You say, well, I wouldn't do that. No, don't say that. You know doggone well you're going to let the price go up. It's just a supply and demand thing. It's just how that works. And so what happens, in order to be able to relieve the pressure on land and lot prices, you have to have 2.5 year supply. So to the degree you're less than 2.5 years supply, creates pressure on land prices and lot prices, it pushes it up. What does it do then? It pushes up the home prices, and then we have a new thing that shows up called, we're short of workforce housing. And we have a problem with retirees who would like to stay, and at a certain price home, have a hard time. So the 2.5 year supply is a big nut. So here, once we get to that, if you take all of that consideration, what does it mean? If you look at how many lots you have, how many you're going to use, and how many you need to have on hand, that means we need 12,196. Well, but then you got to take off how many lots you've got. So this means we have to develop. If you're just going to have just enough, and you factor in a recession, very modest one, we have to have 10,676 lots being developed between now and the end of 24. That's not complicated. Here's how many I'm using, take a little recession, factor it in, here's what I need to have on hand. It's just, honestly, it's just real easy. So if you take the rest of 19, which I did, and in 21, 2, 3, all 24, that's 69 months. So if you say, well, what is the problem with land development? Is it funding and all of those? It's always a struggle. But that's really not the issue. The question is whether or not we can put just enough lots on the ground to accommodate the local market and some retirees that want to live here and people having kids. What is it boiled down? We need 10,676 lots approved, that's what I need, see, and developed over the next 69 months, or 154.7 lots a month. I cannot tell you how accurate that is. There's a difference between just shooting my mouth off over here and saying all kinds of crazy words, but that's not what I'm doing to you. We physically count everything for years in Santa Rosa County. I know you've not heard of us before, but that's fine. We count for years and years and years. We've been counting every subdivision, tracking all the planning commission stuff, all the recorded plats. We go to courthouse and pull all the plats. So what do we have? We have a number of lots on the ground. The question becomes, even today, do we have enough lots on the ground, even this moment? Well, let me tell you what we've got. We've got 1,520, right? I can tell you by subdivision where every lot's located, by the way. If I have in front of me, how many lots do I really need on the ground today? I need 3,677 on the ground today, and I get 1,520. So if I'm in a planning mode, how many lots do I have to plan for to accommodate mostly the local market and some transfer in, okay? It's both, but it's much more local than you would think. How many do I need? Well, I need to develop 154.7 lots per month, every month for the next 69 months. That's what I need to do. And so you say, well, we've got too many lots today. No, that's not true. I need 3,677 today on the ground, and I've actually got 1,520. And I'll tell you, I'm not here to convince you to do nothing. And I just want you to know, if you're looking for the absolute facts, here it is. And again, I've got it to give to you in a second. Let me just take us out of here. So if a person's coming back and say, again, on this chart, it's one I just talked about, but in Santa Rosa, look at Escambia. We have a situation in Escambia where there we have 1,648 lots underground and 1,520. Even Okaloosa got the lot count. So if you're looking at next door, we have a demand for lots of 6,896 that we're going to use. That's what I'm going to use between now and the end of '24. How many have I got? I got 1,648. I'm going to have many people move in. In Santa Rosa, I've got 1,520. I'm going to have 8,609 families move into houses. I got 1,520 lots. I'm going to need 8,609. Let me just take us out of here. What I did is, I'm not going to get into this last part because I want to open for questions here, and I'm going to give you this in writing. But I just want to show you what I did here. I tried to figure out, how do you deal with the retirees? You know what I'm finding with the retirement market? Everywhere I go, is that somehow, and it hasn't happened in Santa Rosa hardly at all, by the way, so it's going to sound like I'm being critical, but I'm not, because I really don't think it's hardly happened here. We find that there's a lot of places they'll put in such rules and regulations and more this and more that and more this, and all of a sudden the retirees who live here, who would like to move down, have a dickens of a time moving down. When they move down, they don't want to move down into 3,000 square feet. They would like to move down somewhere in that, even down into the 14, 15, 1,600 square feet, all the way up into a little bit larger square feet, probably 1,600 here, see that? To 2,450. But well-appointed houses. And so when they want to move out of a little bit bigger house or move down, and I'm not talking about transferring in here and moving down. I'm talking about local residents wanting to move down. It's increasingly difficult to do that. Not that you can't yet, but because we're pushing up the prices of homes and lots simply because of supply and demand. It's just, so what I've done here is I've put down all kinds of information on the 50-plus market. And there's no sense in me reading this to you and telling you. I'm going to give you a perspective on in a second. But I also put in a real lot of insights on how they see it and what they want to move into and how does it work. And I think that we have a real problem, even here, by the way, pulling that off. So I've got, what I did is I also put in here all kinds of demographic data, and then I've put down the map and where we're at and all of this. Let me get back over here now. I'm going to take us back all the way over to here. It's kind of summarized real easy, and I'll quit. Watch. In the county, if you factor in being off 14% between now and the end of the fourth month of 23, it's nothing. Look at, watch this. See here, 2020, now we've already got part of 19 gone, so 1484, 1410, 1354, back up to 1387. It's very modest what we see coming off. Again, it's out here in 2035 that we got a real crisis economically in the United States, but this is no big deal. So what do we find ourselves in? We find ourselves in a situation where, being off 14%, we're going to build 8,609 houses. We're going to build 8,609 houses, and we've got 1,520 lots. He said, well, that's not the right lot count. No, that's not true, actually. That's exactly the count. If it would have been 1,521, I would have put the one down there. So if you don't mind, let me just try to answer a few questions, and I'll try to answer your questions. And if I can't, what I'll do is I will get you the answer back best I can, okay? Somebody got a question for me?
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you. We have a subdivision out in East Milton called the Preserve, and your indications show that workforce housing, first startup housing, downsize housing seems to be the lead way to go, but yet over there I see larger houses with 3-car garages, and they're being sold as quick as they can get them stood up. How would you, and East Milton, hasn't seen that kind of growth that we've seen in Pace and other areas of the county, but certainly starting to. I didn't know if you had an idea why that would occur or a prediction on that. So.
Let me tell you the difference between them. Here, let me go another step. We help cities all over the place and planners. I'm helping with the Walton County head of the Planning Commission right now, looking at all the rules and regulations and all the stuff they've done, and what are the demographics, what are the missing pieces of their puzzle over there, and we do that free, by the way. We don't charge cities and government anywhere any money. At my age, who gives a crap? I made enough money, you know what I mean? So about 40% of all I do, I give away free. And so what I've found, though, among the government world, is we find that government, in some places, and I'm not suggesting that here at all. I honestly not. It sounds like it'd be critical, but I'm not. I find that in some places there is such bias to go a certain way, and I find that some places they suck up the people with money. And I find that some places they suck up the people with power. And I just, that irritates the heck out of me, honest to God. I think that in the government, what's the job in government? The job of government is to deal with everybody. It's to somehow find a solution to all the pieces of the puzzle. And that's tough. So how do you accommodate big houses like that? How do you accommodate workforce housing? How do you accommodate the elderly? So you know what we do when we help planners plan? We don't ever plan ahead. I can't stand the idea of planning ahead. It irritates the heck out of me. What we do is we come back and look at a whole county. We say, let's fill it full of people. Where should we have put the 5 lanes? Where should we have planned 20 years in advance? Where should we put the new city hall? Where should we have put the parks? Where should we have put the waterways? Where should we have put the golf? Whatever. By filling the whole county with people, there is no more room. It's all gone. And then what we do is we say, what should we have done now that it's all full? Oh, God, we should have put 5 lanes here or 4 or whatever. So then eventually, 20 years from now, when it comes through and they're going to put a subdivision there, we know we need to have the land free, you see. And a lot of things we do like that. And then we plan backwards. We don't plan ahead. And we plan backwards to today, and it's just reverse. So I think you need to have housing for people who want 3-car garage and have the bucks to pull it off. But that's not the issue here. I think that I'm concerned as much as anything for the retirees here. And I'm not talking about people moving in here. I think that the older people that live here, honest to goodness, in just a few more years at the rate we're raising prices and stuff and things are going up, I think we're going to have increasing difficulty delivering. You know there's a group in Santa Rosa County? There's about 5 different kinds of retirees that are going on here. There's a group that will never buy a new home. They won't. They can't afford it. And it's going to stay that way. There's no sense in trying to fix that issue. I don't try to fix it, I'm just trying to report it. There's another group that's only a few percentage points that's very high-end retirement market, and I'll quit. And there's varying groups, you see, but one of them is a big group here that would like to buy new retirees, and I honestly think already they're getting to the place they can't get the house where would they like it, and they can't get it with all the amenities they would like because they have to give up a lot because the doggone land price and house prices are pushed up. I think not all of that is because of a lack of lots. That's not true. There's all of it because the home prices have gone up and the land prices are going to go up without developed lots. So there's a lot of reasons going on, but one of the things that we can do here is we can try to accommodate to have enough lots in the right place. I'm not in favor of putting anything anywhere at all. I don't believe in it. I think it requires good planning, common sense, doing what's right, but it means you accommodate everybody, not just the poor, not just workforce housing, but you accommodate the rich, accommodate the people. It's very tricky. I wouldn't want that job you guys got at all. It's easier for me to just report it out, you see. So another question, anybody?
What should be the price point of the lots as you're developing them? I mean, what's an affordable time?
let me deal with it a little bit differently if I can. I think that'll help you. We had here for a long time during the last recession where we had so many lots in some places and not in some places. And the value of the lot relative to the selling price of the home, it got down to the 14%, all the way to 16% here in some places in the outlying areas. But almost never does it really get any lower than 18% of the selling price of the home and lot, all the way up to 20%. Builders tend to use 20% of the selling price of the home and lot as a developed lot. So a $200,000 home at 20% is a $40,000 lot. You can't deliver 40, hardly. I mean, lots of luck. If you could deliver 40,000 lot, if you were doing it, you wouldn't do it. You'd sell that sucker for 50 or 60, you see, because you can get the money. So even though you could, you're not going to do it. But I watch the ratios, and we're seeing now somewhere about 22 to 23.5% of the selling price of the home and lot. So it's creeped up and creeped up. So if you want to build in the $200,000 range, if you wanted to do that, I mean, you're going to have to be 45, 46, 47. I just don't know how you do it. It is very, very challenging. So what do they have to do in order to keep their lot price down? The only way they can pull that off is with density. If you're going to put one lot per acre, there's a whole different ballgame if you're going to do 2 or 3. I've noticed that the detached part, when you get more than 4 per acre, the retirees are starting to struggle with it. The most that I think the retirees will put up with is about 4.5 lots per acre, so they have enough for cutting grass and for whatever, because they better do a lot of it. So 4 per acre, but if you come in and say, well, we don't want to do anything more than 2 per acre, you might have kissed that idea goodbye, because they can't spread their money into the acreage, you see, and they have more streets for the houses. But if you put 2 lots on an acre, well, you get this much street. Well, you could put 4 lots on an acre and it still have the same amount of street. So it depends on how we do it. But if a person is going to go after being able to accommodate the retirees, and again, I'm not trying to make it for people coming in from out of state. I'm not trying to say that. But the local people, if you're going to try to do that, I think that we have to be really careful. The rich would say, don't come live next to me. Well, I can appreciate that. But how do you accommodate everybody? That's why I'm saying, I think that planning, we have to say, well, you know, in this area, I think we can get by with 4.5 per acre. And sometimes we have to go to attached to get to 8 and 9 on townhouses, just because some can't afford it. A widow, for instance. So let me just... So the answer is very complicated, and it varies all over the board on what the lots are, depending on what you're going to go after, who you're going to try to put in there, and what the prices have to be. That's why I think it requires planning and good flexibility to try to make things happen. I just was in a huge meeting, full like this, in another state, and I'm listening. And they wanted to go through one lot for 3 acres. That's what they wanted to change the zoning to. There was about 8 people that wanted to do that. They were all filthy rich, and they had big houses. I said, you know what you're about to do? You're about to discriminate against the elderly. That's what that boils down to. It just irritates me. We have to accommodate everybody. It's not about rich or poor, powerful or weak. It's about accommodating everybody. So I got all this stuff here. If you sound like I'm trying to prognosticate and make myself look smarter than I am. Are we all set for the questions? Anybody else want to ask a question before I quit? We're good? Would you mind doing that? I've got, ironically enough, I've got 14, and there's 15 with my police officer back here, and we got a copy for him as well. I think we could just write. I appreciate you letting me come, okay? Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles. We appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome. If you get to the place, Sam, where I can help you down the road, I will help you free.
Thank you very much.
We do that. All government, all over the place. We don't mind doing that. And we don't mix it up. I'm not here to try to convince you to do nothing.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm just trying to give you the facts, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for accommodating your schedule where you could be in here today. We appreciate
Yeah,
that
you're
very
welcome.
much.
Appreciate it, thanks.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take one more 10-minute break, and then we will reconvene and dispose of the rest of the agenda. So we'll reconvene about 5 till 11.
That was rather interesting. Good presentation.
I was getting ready to start the meeting, but here comes our chairman.
Saving all of you from having to do a news interview, but I appreciate it. All right. Roger, if you'll take us to item number 7 under the engineer's report. Thank you.
And that item is a discussion of change order number 2 for the Central Landfill Phase 5 expansion project. Contract with Atlantis Commercial Group in the amount of $66,814.07, and an extension from the contract date of April 26, 2019 to July 21, 2019 due to inclement weather delays. The original contract was for $9,999,863.12. We issued a change order number 1 as a deduct. We're adding back 66, so we're still within budget, and recommend this be added to the consent agenda.
Commissioner Cole, you have a comment?
I agree, move it to consent agenda, but I did want to comment. I've been doing some spring cleaning and been up on top of one of the landfills, emptying a trailer, and those are very impressive looking construction out there on those new cells, so good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public or commissioners to comment on this item? If not, we'll move it to Thursday's consent agenda.
Item number 8 is a discussion of the contract award to J. Miller Construction in the amount of $294,928.92 for the Holly by the Sea easement maintenance plan. These are phases 2 and 3. The board has previously awarded phase 1 in a previous meeting, and the physical impact is funds have been set aside from the road and bridge, and we're recommending award of those 2 contracts.
All right. Do we have any members of the public or fellow commissioners that have any comments on this item? Commissioner Peach?
Just for knowledge, I've already spoken with Roger, but we're going to get out in front of expectation management for the folks in Holly by the Sea and make sure we get the scope down and we inform, and I'll play a big part in that for the staff to help them get the word out so folks don't freak out when we start digging up the canals and drain. Good project.
Thank you, and I'm sure you will, but I'll even say as one member, I'd look forward to maybe a few months you bring back to the board with some before and after photo updates. I think that'll speak volumes. So if there's no other comments or questions, we will move this to Thursday's consent agenda. Thank you.
Item number 9 is a discussion of the construction of the Godwin Connector project. This project is 1,150 feet by a 10-foot wide multi-use path. It connects Madura Road and Soundside Drive. And 880 feet of this is going to be a raised pier section with the remaining 270 feet constructed of asphalt paving. It required DEP and Corps of Engineer permitting. We now have those permits in hand, and we're recommending advertising and receiving bids for the construction of the Godwin Connector project.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments from any members of the public or fellow commissioners on this item? If not, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Thank you, Roger.
Item number 10 is a discussion of change order number 2 in the additive amount of $18,561 to the Chavers Construction for Chipper Lane and Maranatha drainage improvements. That's an HMGP project. Unforeseen site conditions and additional pond excavation required the installation of additional 24-inch concrete pipe, mitered ends, area inlets, and sod. We're recommending approval of change order number 2. And available construction is currently $1.265 million. We're requesting an increase in participation in the grant. However, if it does not approve, then this would have to come out of reserves.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from any members of the public on this item or fellow commissioners? I'll say on this, we appreciate it getting moving forward. It is a good reminder, though, that even with progress is the pain, but the engineering staff has done very well at addressing those questions and complaints that have come in as folks deal with the ongoing construction. I'd recommend we move this to Thursday's consent agenda. Thank you.
Item number 11 is a discussion of the waiver of disposal fees at the Santa Rosa County Central Landfill for the Great American Cleanup, organized by the Santa Rosa County Clean Community System. We routinely receive requests from nonprofits, community group, and various types of organizations, and we are recommending approval of the waiver for the Great American Cleanup.
All right, do we have any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda. Thank you.
Item number 12 is a discussion of the new interlocal agreement with Emerald Coast Utilities Authority, ECUA, for the acceptance and processing of source-separated recyclables collected curbside in Santa Rosa County. Attached in the backup is an agreement that we've gone through several iterations, including legal, engineering, and environmental administration. We're recommending approval of this new agreement with the caveat that consideration be made for the transportation. We received today an email from ECUA whereby they are canceling our current agreement effective April 30. We will not have our transportation cost in place by May 1, and so during the interim time that we get that contract in place, we'll be diverting the flow. We'll continue curbside recycling, but it will not be taken to the process center until we have that transportation contract in place.
Their proposed contract has the language that says we can suspend it with 7 days' notice. So I think that's probably what we need to do, is suspend that contract until we have the hauler in place.
We'd make that recommendation.
Commissioner Lynch.
Just a question, Roy, when you say suspend the contract, are will I see a difference at my house during that interim period?
We will not.
Will they still pick up recycling?
It's just the ultimate disposal location would change.
Yeah, the contract with ECUA requires us, if we collect, to transport it to their facility. And again, I think that since we don't have the ability to collect it until we have a hauler in place, so we don't have the ability to transport it to them, then we have a hauler in place. We can collect it, but hold it until we have the facility to transfer it to them. And we can do that by suspending that provision.
Just wanted to make sure that
approve the contract, but suspend the operation.
And that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't get people out of the habit of recycling and then jump back in again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move that to Thursday's consent agenda for approval. Thank you, Roger, for y'all working on that so diligently. And that wraps up the engineer's report, and that takes us to Commissioner Cole with the Public Services Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got one item, discussion or approval of a resolution adopting the updated Title VI plan as required for receipt of federal funds. All the information's in your backup. If there are any comments or questions from board or staff? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. Next, Commissioner Lyncher will tackle the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is discussion of rebuilding and resurfacing 9,800 feet of Hall Road from County Road 164 to Aris Lane at an estimated cost of $234,000 with funding from the primary road resurfacing line. Any questions, comments on this? If not, I'll move it to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
Item 2, discussion of approval of the installation of 2 speed humps on DuPont Circle as requested by the Spencer's Ridge Homeowners Association. The HOA will pay to install the speed humps. Staff recommends approval. Any questions, comments from the board? Stephen, anything to add to that request? Okay. I'll move this to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
Item 3, discussion of acceptance of a 6-foot wide drainage easement from Jeff R. Boyer and Jamie N. Boyer along the front property line of 5057 Oneida Trail. Any questions or comments on this? This comes with a staff recommendation to accept. I will move this to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
And item 4 is discussion of award of a fuel supply contract to Cougar Oil, Inc., based on piggybacking off of the current Escambia County contract. Any questions, comments on this? If not, I'll move it to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
And that concludes the Public Works.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyncher. Commissioner Peach will now cover the Budget and Financial Management Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to say I have less items than Roger this week, so this should be quick. Item number one is a bid item for polyethylene corrugated pipe. Discussion and approval of the bid from Ferguson Waterworks for polyethylene pipe as lowest bidder meeting specifications. Staff recommends acceptance. Is there any discussion? If none, recommend move this to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved.
Item number two is Budget Amendment 2019-135, Munson Volunteer Fire Substation. Discussion of the budget amendment in the amount of $15,000 for the design services for Munson Volunteer Fire Substation as approved previously at a July 26, 2018 regular meeting. Is there any discussion? Recommend we move this to Thursday's consent agenda without objection.
So moved, and I noticed when I drove by there this weekend, they've already got a sign out there letting folks know there's going to be progress with that new fire station.
Item number three is Budget Amendment 2019-136, Navarre Beach Pier Deck. Discussion of the budget amendment in the amount of $9,490 to carry forward authorized but unspent funding of $4,490 and an additional $5,000 to Atkins North America for the Navarre Beach Pier Deck number 12 walkover and restroom replacement, which includes the additional scope for 2 shower towers. Any discussion? Seeing no objections or discussion, recommend move this to Thursday's consent agenda.
So moved.
Item number four is Budget Amendment 2019-137, Navarre Beach Wastewater Treatment Plant. Discussion of the budget amendment in the amount of $39,000 to carry forward funds in the Navarre Beach Utility Fund for Task Order 37 from Jacob CH2M Hill to study, design, and prepare plans and specifications to replace Navarre Beach Wastewater Treatment Plant Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, otherwise known as the SCADA system, as approved at our April 11, 2019 meeting. Any discussion? Seeing no objections, recommend move this to Thursday's consent agenda.
So moved.
And Mr. Chairman, I will review the check register and have it for you approval at Thursday's meeting.
Thank you. Just real quick before we adjourn, I forgot to add this on, but I would just ask my fellow commissioners if you have the opportunity between now and our next set of meetings in 2 weeks. I know something that I've been asked for, and I'm sure some of you has gotten back, is some of these groups, especially with the chambers and citizens that want to help educate folks about the issue of the local option sales tax election, has asked for a list of proposed projects, at least some, whether it be projects or percentages that would be addressed. But I would just ask you gentlemen that if over the next 2 weeks leading up to that meeting, I'll probably ask the county administrator for us to have a discussion item just so that we could sort of be able to solidify some of the projects that we could identify that if that funding was secured in the election, that we would move on first. And so I would just ask y'all to be thinking about that and give you a heads up. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity to serve with you guys and all the work y'all done over the time. Commissioner Peach?
One last point, Mr. Chairman, just to remind folks about the budget workshop down at Tiger Point tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock. I've challenged a lot of the South End folks to fill the place up to come get educated on our budget workshop. So for those in the audience and all those listening, come on out tomorrow night and hear the discussion about our budget here in the county. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Saul?
With what Commissioner Peach just said, we had the similar workshop in Pace last Monday night. I thought Dan and staff did an excellent job of laying out exactly what needed to be said, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Dan?
Okay, one additional thing. The state legislature is expected to start the conference, if not tonight, then tomorrow, on the budget items. We have 5 projects that are currently still in play. I would ask either some guidance or the latitude to work with the lobbyists to come to a successful conclusion. I don't think we'll get all 5, but I think we have the courthouse in both the House and Senate appropriations at the requested amount. I think that's pretty good. That's $300,000 for this master planning phase we're in now. The other projects are in either the Senate or House bill, but we have funding right now identified for each: Camden Drive, expanding infrastructure in the I-10 Industrial Park, the Randy Brown G&H Road, Connector Road, and also design of Woodbine Road are all included. If you have a prioritization, I would ask you to think about that and let me know. It's going to be quick turn sort of response with our lobbyists that I need the latitude or guidance from you all to handle those requests when they come to make sure that we get the right solution there.
Commissioner Cole?
I would feel comfortable, seeing how Dan has handled himself since he's taken the helm, especially with him and Jane coming up with the funding for the courthouse, to give county administrator latitude to call those items as he and the lobbyist sees fit to secure the ones we can secure.
I'll second those feelings. Do we have any other comments? Dan, it looks like we're putting a lot of trust in you. We appreciate the hard work you do every day on that. All right, well, with that concludes the meeting. Thank you so much for attending.